Hi guys, welcome back to our channel. This channel is run by two sisters, so I'll be your host, Star. And for today's video, I'll be drawing summer outfits for my original characters. I'll also be discussing, my art goals since we have hit the halfway mark of the year so far. Honestly, we're beyond that now, but I just want to assess my progress. The footage is already playing, so yeah, let's jump right into it. Okay. So first, I am doing today's art on Clip Studio Paint, which I think is the first this year, like in a video, I think. Though I've been using it for a month now consistently. I haven't been making art videos, so yeah, no one has seen any of that. The last time I think I've used the software and showed it on the channel was my Ghibli, however you say it, redraw in November 2022. And before that, I think was the November of the previous year when I first bought the program in 2021. So yeah, it's been a while, but yeah, anyways, I've been using the program more recently for like webcomic work and stuff. But I'll talk more about that a little bit later. Because I've been drawing a lot and wanted to do something quick and easy, I utilized the 3D models for help, but I don't think I used it well. I don't know if it's noticeable, but mainly for like Jonas here, because his like right arm is just there, like not on his hip or in his pockets. I was honestly so tired while working on this that I didn't realize how bad it looked. So please just ignore that. Anyways, yeah, after drawing the bodies and poses, I worked on the hair sketches, which you won't see in the video. But for the hair, I switched up Vanessa's and Elijah's original looks. Vanessa still has like curly hair, but I tend to draw her like outside of her like bubble braid like hairstyle, her typical hairstyle. And for Elijah, sometimes I draw him with locks or curls. Like when I made him originally, I drew him a lot with curls, and then I switched up to locks the beginning of 2022, and I've been drawing him mainly that way, like, consistently. And this time around, I did draw him with locks, no surprise, but I drew it kind of differently than normal. I think it fits better with, like, this updated look / art style, not really, but kind of, that I have going on while working on CSP. I think I like the locks, instead of being, like, straight lines, a little bit more jagged. I think it just works well. But because Vanessa and Elijah got a hair change, I had to switch it up for Jonas too, because my boy was severely lacking. So I drew a new hairstyle on a new layer, from the one that I previously drawn for him, whatever. And yeah, I gave him like a shaggy type style, and I really like it. Hopefully in editing, I'm putting some of like their old drawings so you can get an example of like what I'm talking about in terms of like how I usually typically draw XYZ and so you can see like how it's different now. Like their old hairstyles to like their new ones. But once everything was completed, I worked on the actual piece. I spent time on Pinterest, compiling references for like summer outfits. I have like a lot of references, because I originally wanted to do a piece where they're all together like this, but then each character will have their own, like on a single page or canvas, like themselves, they'll have like more outfits that I could explore. But I only had time for this, but I might still do the other idea because, I don't know, I found this process really fun. So yeah, besides Vanessa, Jonas and Elijah outfits are from multiple references, like combinations. And Vanessa, I guess besides like the top part of her dress, kind of, I can't exactly remember, and definitely the sleeves, everything else of like the dress is just based on one reference, but I did tweak it a little bit. I don't think there's much to say about the outfits themselves. I wanted to keep the weather in mind, obviously, so even if a character is like wearing something long, it's either light and see-through like Vanessa's sleeves, or has like some ripped element like Elijah's pants or shirt. And like for Elijah, he is layered up, but I think the elements like are short enough, and like for his green top, when I actually color this, is see-through, so I think like, you know, he can withstand the heat. Yeah, I don't have much to say about Jonas. I like his outfit. My sister pointed out to me after I showed her the final piece that he looked like he was going on a safari trip, and I can't unsee it, but it's something, I don't know, it's something about his updated look that it just makes it work. Like, if his old design wore it, I would have absolutely hated it. But maybe because, I think it's because I tend to draw him more petite, and he wore like academia and I guess like kind of soft boy outfits, like crochet tops and things like that. And it isn't bad. Like the reference sheet that I did a couple of days ago prior to doing this video that I made for or I'm still kind of in the process, but the one I was making for him and Elijah has that similar style, like this kind of updated look with those outfits, I mean. And I do like drawing him that way because it just fits for like how he's currently looking. I don't know if that makes sense, but yeah, I don't know. I do like drawing him with like those outfits, but I don't know, with the way he's currently looking, I think I needed to switch it up, and I quite like the new aesthetic. I don't even know if it's an aesthetic, just not drawing what I typically have drawn for him. I don't know. It's the hair, man. It changed it up for me. So I can't wait to explore like his look with a more shaggy style. So I think it will inspire the type of clothing he would then wear. I don't know. I think so. And I don't know. I think it'll also make him easier to draw. Because I don't know, I feel like the shaggy style is just a bunch of like tiny, short, quick lines that make up his hair. And I think because it's kind of like this messy look, you don't really have to, at least for me, don't have to get it down specifically to a T. So that's that. My favorite outfit and character is definitely Elijah, if you couldn't tell. I don't know, he's my baby, and he was the first character I drew before I created these other characters to kind of fit into to his world. Because before that, I typically had like fantasy characters that I made. But when I made like normal characters, I would make them like kind of like one-off for like random drawings. But when I actually put the effort to create an OC, which was Elijah, I was like, okay, if he's normal and I actually gave him a name and I'm gonna draw him more than once, I need to like draw other characters to fit into this world. And yeah, I don't know, I think it's been going well, and I like that I utilize those one-off characters that I draw like randomly to inspire these new characters that I'm putting into his world. I would just like take those designs that I made and turn them into an actual character down the line. I did that with Jonas, I did that with Vanessa, and two other OCs that I don't mention a lot on this channel. I don't think even ever. I did the same with. I think I drew them like almost 2 years ago at this point. It's whatever. We're gonna move on, but I like that. Okay, yeah, so we're moving on. Let's talk about the art process now. I wanted to ensure that the video was in real time. Like, of course, things are chopped up to show a little of like everything, but still you can clearly see everything without like me explaining it. So I like this better than always showing like a sped up version of my art process. But honestly, like those time lapses are easier to edit since you just kind of like speed them up, add some text here or there, voiceover, and get it moving. This time around, especially if you have a 5-hour footage, you can't just like speed it up. You have to go through it and ensure like the camera angle like showed everything and chop it up into like good pieces where you get a little bit of everything and it actually makes sense. So yeah, I don't know, that was a long process, but I don't know, I think for the last couple of videos that I've done, or maybe just this one and then the Spider-Verse video, I want to kind of show a little bit of like more slower stuff. But yeah, since I've been using the program consistently for a month now, I have been using the Soul Brush. I'll try to remember to link it down below. It has been my favorite like brush that I've used since I discovered it last year for that Ghibli screenshot redraw video that I did. And honestly, I use it for everything. Sketching, sometimes flats, because it does have like some opacity to it. So if you're filling in a large area and not pressing hard enough, it will take some time to fill that area up. But like for sketching and stuff, or if I'm filling up a small area, it's fine. Like that stuff isn't noticeable, especially if you use a small brush size. like the size of the brush is small, that doesn't like become apparent. But because of that, I have used the default preset G pen brush instead to fill in my flats. So yeah, I also use the soul brush for shading and doing my rendering process. So yeah, that's what I typically use. But because I worked on Vanessa's reference sheet the morning that I was working on this piece prior to like starting this piece, I switched it to the G pen to fill in my flats for her reference, because I needed to do her updated look before I did this piece, because it was a while since I last drew her. And I didn't switch back to the soul brush, and I didn't even notice until I was in the middle of the rendering process that I realized that. So I think that the G pen worked really well, at least for like my style and my workflow, that I didn't notice the difference. Like I didn't catch it early on. And so I honestly can't remember if I even switched back to the soul brush or not. I think I did at one point. But yeah, for the most part, this whole entire piece is done with the G pen before I do switch it up and bring it into Procreate. And then I use other brushes there. But typically if I'm working on CSP, I do like using the soul brush for like 99% of the entire process. Yeah, okay, so yeah, I did my sketch. I filled in my flat colors. I changed Jonas and Vanessa's like previous skin tones. When working on a white background, the skin tones appear different than from previous works that had backgrounds to them, especially when I would import like some of my Procreate stuff and I was color picking from those pieces, because I haven't like made like a definitive color palette for these characters yet. And yeah, the colors just weren't working. Weren't on here. It just wasn't working on here. It appeared different on a white background. That's color theory for you folks. But yeah, so a color will appear lighter or darker based on the background colors, especially if like the contrast and values from those background colors are different. If you use like a light color of something and a light color of something else, you might not notice it. But if it's like a bit of a contrast, like you put that color onto like different values, it will slightly change, and you will notice that. So yeah, that's that. And yeah, honestly, I could have just made the background a different color, especially one color where the colors will work for me. But honestly, I like to suffer. So I am a artist who draws on a pure white background, and I like to suffer. So I didn't even like change it. Or like mess around with the background. I just changed the skin tones to ones that I liked that worked with the white background color, and I didn't feel like Jonas was extremely too pale or Vanessa was a little whitewashed. And then later when I did add a background, the colors worked pretty well still. The background I did add was still fairly light, but the colors still worked pretty well. After I flat everything, I started my shading process underneath my sketches, but they're above the flats. I really utilized the smudge or blend tool on CSP. I've heard a lot of artists say that they don't like it, but with my workflow, I think it worked. I think it's because when I use the tool, I don't use it to blend into the colors underneath. My shading layer is above my flat, so the tool is just smudging or blurring that particular color that I'm using. I assume if I was mixing colors, it might not work well. And I know that could be the same kind of critique to Procreate smudge tool. I think it's kind of similar to CSP, but honestly, for both programs, I make it work, so I don't really mind. I really like the shading process. Since I have been watching a lot of color theory videos, because a lot of artists that I follow have been making videos about it weirdly at the same time. So I just kept those notes in mind. Honestly, actually, when looking back at old art, I see that I have been pretty good with understanding how colors work. But it was because it looked good or I knew what might work well. But now, like my art is the same, but I have a reason for how or why I laid down colors. It's like nothing elaborate, but I have a like better understanding. So let's see. For example, Jonas has an analogous color scheme, and I hope I'm saying that right. And that's typically how I color usually, or how I start most of my art progress for any of the piece that I do. So for him, it's like from the orange to the yellows, to the browns, which is just more of like a saturated color of orange itself. Not saturated, a desaturated color, like changing the hue and value to get that, but the base is an orange. Hopefully that makes sense. But yeah, I like doing an analogous color scheme, but it does all blend into each other sometimes. So using a saturated color or shifting the hues of like whatever color I'm using can work, and that's what I was going to do because Jonas's typical like yellow that I use is a saturated yellow and not something like the one that I picked for this piece. But I think that for that, using a saturated yellow just wasn't working originally. But because of that, because I didn't use it, there isn't much contrast to the piece. And because I did feel like it would throw off the balance of like the vibe that I was going for. So instead, I went with a similar value, but use a complementary color for the socks. And I like doing this when I add accent colors in my work. But actually, when I'm thinking about it, Jonas might have a split split complementary color palette instead. So then you have your orange and yellows and then the blue across the wheel. So I think that's how I will explain it for him. Vanessa is primarily one color, so she has an analogous scheme, or I guess she can also have a monochromatic scheme, since if I remember, I just kind of like shifted the hues and values from that one color that I picked. But her hair breaks up that scheme as a complementary color because it is across the color wheel. Then we have Elisha. I mean, yeah, it's a gray, but it has like a bluish undertone. So yeah, it's across the wheel. Then we have Elijah. Once again, an analogous scheme primarily. So you have the green, the beige color that is an orangey yellowish tone to it. I think it's more yellow. So you have the green and the orange yellows that are like next to each other, and also the blues, they're like on the same side. But then you have the hair, which is pink. Which breaks up the color scheme. So yeah, split complementary. Yeah. So yeah, I don't know. Hopefully I explained that well. But anyways, back to the shading process. I have kept color theory in mind when shading as well. I just started this conscious practice. So after shading each character normally, I like by picking their skin color and then like darkening it a little bit, adding more saturation to it so like it can pop. But yeah, after shading each character normally, I would then add, like for this piece, I then added an additional color to their skin. So for Jonas, I added a deeper orange than his hair to like color into parts of his skin and to try to break up this kind of like one tone he has going on. And honestly, I could have gone more with it, maybe even slightly darker. But after that, I added like a pinkish color on top to it. And I'm not really looking at the footage while I'm speaking, so I don't know if what I'm saying is adding up. So I'm just trying to explain my best. But also at the same time, the footage did cut off, so I don't even know if what I'm saying will actually be shown because I didn't have storage space. So yeah, my phone cut off. And so I do use the rest of the CSP time-lapse that I like to kind of show the footage, but like it doesn't really work that well. It's whatever. But I wanted to do some changes that would pop for his skin, and I think that the pink worked well. But like I said, I could have added more or shaded him with a cooler color actually to break up the warm palette he has going on. Because I think maybe that would have stand out a lot more. For Vanessa, her base is also warm. So after adding her base shading color, which I will say I used a very darker color than I normally will. And I like how CSP, like their smudge or blend tool, I like how it works. Cause I think it worked really well, even when using a darker color, because it lightened up a lot after using it. After that, I added a darker red or like a red wine-ish color to her skin to have more of a contrast. So hopefully that makes sense. And then, yeah, so the shading color, it kind of stayed more analogous in the analogous, hopefully I'm saying that word right, but it stayed in that realm. because, you know, like her base is kind of like orangey, and I use reds to shade her. And then for Elijah, after adding his base shading color, I added a dark red to kind of push those values, because I didn't think the brown, or like the reddish brown that I was using, was working well with shading him. So I added another more reddish tone color to that. And then on top of that, on like select parts, like underneath the clothes, like by the shoulders and part of the arm, neck, and lower abdomen, I added blues and purples. So I kept with the cool colors of his like base flat color stuff. And I do want to see how my art will look like if I use complementary colors to shade instead of using monochromatic or analogous colors to what is already there. Because I don't know, I feel like shading with a cool color for Jonas and Vanessa, and then shading with a warm color for Elijah might give a different effect. But I feel like if I want to play around with something like that, I'll probably do it in an illustration so I can like really play around with it. I feel like for like design work like this, I don't know, it's not too necessary, but I do wonder how that will look. But I don't know, hopefully that makes sense. It probably doesn't if the footage don't even align to what I'm saying, but hopefully that is like, you kind of keep that in mind. Like Jonas and Vanessa have a warmer color palette, and Elijah has a cooler color palette. All three of them, maybe not Jonas, but all three of them for the most part have an analogous color scheme, and I use that same color scheme to shade with them, and keeping it warm for the warm characters, keeping it cool for the cooler characters, and then for certain characters, for like their hair or accent colors, you do kind of have a split complementary color scheme going on to kind of break up that one tone. So yeah, keep that in mind, just in case the footage doesn't add up, but that's what I was going for. But yeah, I don't know, honestly, hopefully that makes sense. I don't know if I'm explaining things well. But that said, let's briefly move on to talking about whether I have been on track with completing my art goals or not. I'll be back to talking about like my art progress at the end of it, because like I said, I did bring this piece into Procreate, so I'll speak about that a little bit. Okay. Art goals. I rewatched the video I did earlier this year, and I had like 5 main art goals and then some extra goals I did not stress to complete because it might go like above my head. I don't know. Like, control what you can control. And so yeah, that was that. But my first goal was to do more illustrations. These don't need backgrounds per se, but have like, I don't know, in terms of like what I do, they have a distinct look to them. So like at first it's like, it's not gonna be just like a character standing in a void like my character design stuff are, and the render is a little bit more polished. I'll be sure hopefully to put some examples on the screen, but I think that I am on track with completing this goal. My second goal was to do more traditional art. I have made some videos on this channel of like traditional stuff like painting. If I have a vlog out there, I probably work in my sketchbook and people can see that in there. But even beyond making videos about it, I've done a lot of stuff in my sketchbook this year. I think I was like really having a good momentum in the beginning of the year because I did take a break from posting stuff. So I just had more time to like work in my sketchbook and do stuff for me. It's been slowing down, but I still make it a point to at least work in my sketchbook 1 to 2 pages a month. Just so like I don't like that, just so I make sure that like I'm keeping on track with that, because I would hate to like 4 or 5 months to go by and I not touch my sketchbook, because that has happened in the past. So yeah, but besides that, I am on track with completing that goal. My third goal was to make a webcomic. Okay, so I would have said I was on progress to releasing a chapter this year and then like continue posting into next year, but the current story that I am working on it's going well, but I think I need more time. Like I want to finish the entire story or be nearly done with it before I work on the drawing aspect, because I would hate to draw something and then have to change it up, or something gets retconned and I just would feel like what I did draw would have then become useless. So I don't know. But I think that like my lore and world building is pretty chaotic and extensive. Like it's like a good chaotic and extensive. I don't know, to at least to me. So I think I would like another year or so to work on it. So instead, I might go back to doing an Elijah Jonas comic, which was my first idea, my original idea that I started last year, that I switched up for this more fantasy story because I just like to do more fantasy stuff instead of like realistic things. Or I might revamp an old story with my sister and work on that with her. But honestly, only time will tell. But I feel like if I still want to do this, I do need to get the ball rolling since school begins next month. So yeah, that's that, and hopefully that works out, because I haven't really been making videos because my time has gone to doing the webcomic and like pre-production stuff, and now I can't even draw it anymore. But yeah, we'll see, only time will tell. But I will flash some of the character designs I have done so far on the screen because like they're there and I have them, not all of them because there's a lot, but I'll flash what I can on screen. My fourth main goal was drawing backgrounds, which I have done. Not a lot, but it is more than what I did last year, so it's a win to me. My last main goal was to take breaks and have fun, which I am having. Even if I don't post about it, I'm having a lot of fun. So some of my extra goals were, one, start an online store, which I have with my sister. It's an Etsy. I have my commissions on there, a brush pack, and a wallpaper design, so goal completed. Next was to go to at least one convention this year. I can't remember if I said in the video that I wanted to participate or attended one. But the year is not over, so I might be able to complete this, but more so attend one than actually participate. Third was doing commissions, and I was so happy when I got my first commission back in April, I think. After having it open for like 3 years, I got a break, and it might be my only one for like another 3 years, but regardless, it was fun and amazing, and I got to have that experience, which I'll treasure. So yeah, thank you to my lovely commissioner. Fourth was to post consistently online, which I have been doing, but I'm not stressing over it. Art is a hobby to me right now, and I do it for fun. And if I worry about posting or the numbers, like having these passions of mine, like making a webcomic, will then be put into like the back burner. So yeah, I prioritize those over social media. But with that said, I don't want to go dead online because I do like posting my art. Next was to do vlogs, which I have done and more to come out, maybe even soon. I like vlogging, so it's like good to share my art even if I don't make a dedicated art video to it. Sixth was to do photography. My sister and I took a class last year, and I was fully expecting to sell my camera after the fall semester. I gave myself the spring semester to decide whether or not to sell the camera, since I don't have, or I'm not taking a photography class anymore. But even though it wasn't a lot, I do find time to take photos when I go out, and I really like it. Like when I go to the park, I'm always taking pictures. My little sister's graduation was a couple of weeks ago. She graduated middle school, and so I brought my camera there, and I took a bunch of pictures then. So yeah, I do find the opportunity to take pictures. So for now, I'm keeping up with photography, and for now, I won't sell my camera. My seventh extra goal was to do more art challenges, like TikTok trends and stuff. And though I haven't like done any, we still have time because the year is not over. But anytime a trend comes on that I really want to do, I always have art block or just no time to do it. So that sucks. And honestly, it might be late, but I still want to do a spider Sona or that Twitter color wheel challenge. So if I find the time to do either, I want to do that. And maybe make a video out of it too. So 2 in 1. And then my last extra goal was to improve my editing style. I don't know, or I don't show it here, like on the channel, because it's really not that much editing. But over on our second channel, Jen Star, a commentary and review channel that I share with my sister also, which is always linked down below, I showcase my minimal expertise over there. Recently, I did a Barbie analysis video, like a video essay over there that's like, I don't know, like a little over 39 minutes long, 39-ish minutes long. And yeah, I guess you can see like you can see my small skills over there and my art, because I did a Barbie fan art piece, And I showed the color and simplified rendering process of those, like the 3 Barbies that I drew. So if that's interesting to you, check out the link to our channel down below. And as of like recording this, it should be the most recent video. But yeah, okay, those were my art goals. And there is a lot, but like I said, the 5 main ones were do more illustrations, more traditional art, doing a webcomic, doing backgrounds, and taking breaks and having fun, which for the most part I have been completing. So yeah, I think I am on track, and I don't know, I'm doing better than I thought, honestly, with my art goals, despite not doing as much art or posting about it as I would have liked. Anyways, let's jump back into the art so we can kind of complete this art process and complete the video. Like I said, my camera cut off while working on this piece, so I will add the rest of the time lapse for like the CSP footage, and I'm pretty sure what I was talking about with like how I was shading and stuff like that will be in the time lapse portion, because I don't know if I actually captured that with my camera. Anyways, after I finished working on this on CSP, I was going to leave the piece the way it was because it didn't have to be polished and didn't have to be finished, but I did kind of want to polish it a bit. So yeah, I kept it simplified, but I wanted to clean up my lines, and I could have done it on CSP, but like I was sitting on my desk for like 10 plus hours working on this piece and on other stuff that I did prior. And so my butt was hurting, my hand, or like more like my wrist was hurting so badly, and I didn't know where my wrist brace was, and so I just called it a day. And so the next morning I put the piece into Procreate and I cleaned it up. And like this is like part of like my rendering stage, like part 2. I render above my sketch lines, or like I overpaint, so like color picking, erasing lines, and just like overall cleaning it up. I rendered each character on their own layer and then merged everything together. Then it was easy to erase and continue when not worrying about going through multiple layers. So I see why artists do everything on one layer, but it has its charms. But I was panicking like while working on this. It was very scary having everything on one layer. But yeah, anyways, I added a background color, something very simple, because I didn't want to leave them just like against a white background in a void. I duplicated the work, and then I filled like the characters with auto lock. I filled everyone black, and then I lowered the opacity to that. I shifted the character, like the black layer, to create a drop shadow on the characters, and then yeah, boom, I was done. I added their names and stuff, but yeah, primarily this was it. The overpainting stage was like a little under 2 hours. I was like off by like, I don't know, like 9 minutes, which I think is typical, I guess. But like if I was doing like illustration, like that number would seem typical and okay. But like something like this, it really shouldn't have taken that long, just especially since I was just cleaning up a little bit. But yeah, most of the footage is like me leaving the camera, like the screen recording on, and also since my wrist hurt like so much, and I still don't even know where my wrist brace is. I was slower than usual. But yeah, I don't know. Overall, I really liked working on this. And I don't know, I get to draw my babies, so I quite like that. I definitely want to do this again, but I might keep it a sketch though, to ensure that I can work on more fully rendered illustrations later on down the line for the summer before school starts. But yeah, anyways, this was it. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. It definitely means a lot. I don't know. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, anyways, yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. It definitely means a lot. Then I see you in another video. Stay safe, stay cool, because here in New York City, it is so goddamn hot. It is literally unbearable to do anything. So yeah, I don't know. Stay cool and stay safe. I hope you guys have an amazing day. Jen, I see you in another video. Peace. Bye, guys. Oh, and my commissions are open, so go check that out down below. Anyways, okay, bye.